What was your feelings on the arc you were going to have with Sauron? Let's say their relationship arc.
Yeah, I was really excited by it. I mean, I just love mortal enemies, and particularly when they wear like quite beautiful clothes. Do you know, this kind of, it's so much fun, and he's just such a wonderful villain because he's so good at being bad. He's got such a plan. He's so effective. So he really like puts them through their paces. And yeah, it's been wonderful to play her, and kind of, I love that kind of her slight, her kind of unique way of looking at things is what kind of entices him. Yeah.
I also love your character because you're a great character. You know, and was that something that was appealing to you? Not only because of Sauron, you're far more aggressive. Did you find it appealing that this character is not necessarily good or bad?
Yes, I really like that idea, and I also think that kind of the elves don't have the same social kind of expectations that we do, and so I like the idea of her kind of acting in a ways that as humans aren't allowed to. So I like her outrageousness. Yeah.
And I got to say, you nailed the breakup scene. I've had 2 breakup scenes that ended just like you and Sauron. I had the same thing happen to me. You nailed it.
Oh. Well, I'm sorry about that, but thank you very much.
So one of the things that your arc, Sauron, we have all a division of Sauron, you know, evil to completely evil. How is it for you to, when you first signed on, realizing your character has not made a choice and it's not necessarily good or evil yet?
Yeah, I mean, when I first signed on, I didn't even know I was playing Sauron. I just thought I was playing Halbrand, a man from the Southlands, right? At the start of, I had an inkling that there was something more to him because I auditioned with, you know, a monologue from Paradise Lost, playing Satan. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something there. But yeah, as the show went on, I started to dig in more to his story, and I mean, I've read so much, and it sounds like you know quite a bit about it, and I think there's something really cool about the ambiguity of the place he was in, right? Because Tolkien wrote that at the beginning of the age, he repented, and knelt before the gods and said sorry, in a way, but then couldn't bring himself to fully commit to it, and he was drawn back into the darkness. And I found that was the most interesting part of his character for me to explore in the first season, because that's what we see him doing, right? We see this battle between good and evil beginning, and him kind of teetering on the edge of it. And he obviously goes one way, which is drawn towards the darkness.
Well, what's more fascinating for me is your relation with Galadriel is very special because both of you are on the precipice could go good or evil.
Yeah.
And is that for playing your relationship, how fascinating was working with that character, their relationship and their arc?
It was special. It was a really special experience because, I mean, we worked together pretty much the whole first season, and the 2 characters go through so many ups and downs, and it's such a complex journey, and I think it was a really smart storytelling device having, I guess, the manifestations of good and evil in the show come together, and you see the blurred boundaries between the 2 of them, and one is drawn towards the darkness and the other to the light, and it swaps. There were some really special things that me and Morfydd were able to explore, which was really fun.
And the last question, then do you think your character felt deep down he wished she could have saved him? Or bring him back?
That she wished she could have saved him? I could have saved...
No, she could have saved you.
I think there was maybe a small, tiny moment, yeah, when definitely he contemplated the potential of being good, right? And I think that he pretty upset that when he pitched to her to join him and she says no, he definitely felt that.
Yeah, she did want to pull you back a little.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that was it's really cool, yeah.
Okay, so you didn't speak a lot in the first season.
God, you keep reminding me that I'd sort of forgotten. Yeah, I felt like I communicated a lot, but you're right, almost no language. Yeah.
How was you feeling the finale? We'll talk about the season 1 finale.
Yep.
How was you feeling where you and Nori's relationship came to fruition? It really grew into something special. How was that, for your season arc?
Yeah, so I think when I began to, it sort of mirrors the way I felt when the script landed, and I first saw that the Mystics were calling the stranger Sauron. And at that point, I was like, whoa, I'm going to play Sauron. Wow, this is big. And then, I obviously realized, but when we were filming that section, the Mystics have created such an intense version of darkness that it's beginning to flood his brain. And I think we're not a million miles away from him taking a path that he wouldn't be able to come back from, a dark path. And when Nori turns up and says to him, she sees him lying on this rock, he's sort of been pummeled and he's sort of half dead, and she's like, look, mate, I haven't got time to save you here. My family are over here. My community's being set on fire. I've got to go and sort them out. I've got to go and help them. All I can say to you is, I believe you're good. You think about it. You do the work. I believe you're good. And she leaves him. She gives him this staff. She sort of puts that staff there. And as he grabs, I like to think that as he touches this staff, finally, without the ego of trying to control power, suddenly, without that ego, the touching of this piece of wood, this relic of magic, it connects the heavens and it connects the earth, and he doesn't need to do anything. He's just a conduit. He's just a conduit for that energy. And when he looks over and sees his friends, the only friends he's got in the world, Nori, Poppy, Largo, Sadok, Marigold, he sees them all in trouble. He walks over and this love comes out of him. His love for these people. Maybe the first time he acknowledges what love feels like. And he's holding this stick, and suddenly it's the conduit for the thing, and boom, out comes this energy, and he knows he's good, and he does, he's able to manifest this positivity, and it banishes these mystics. So for me, those moments were really, really vital for him to understand the path that he's going on from here, and that's why, from my part, that epic sort of climax of season 1 was so momentous.
Now, it looks like you're going on a buddy road trip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously we set that out, so it's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
How is it for you, season 2, now exploring a new, an evolved relationship with Nori?
Yeah, and I think what was lovely for me was that we got a chance to do some of the things that we hadn't had the chance to do. So, we thought about names, we thought about origin, we thought about sharing information about our histories, and the kind of conversations that when you're on a buddy, if you imagine going on a long road trip, the kind of things you might talk about as the hours sidle past. You might have hours of silence, and then suddenly somebody comes up with something, you get into a conversation. That kind of relationship was fantastic, because what I feel about Nori and the stranger, is that their relationship it's really one of those friendships that you just don't question. They just get each other. They just are friends. And they're always going to be friends. And it gave us such that we could relax into that on this journey, just trudging off together, through the ever hotter environments, the ever more difficult environments. But they trust each other. They got each other's back, and it was a joy to film.
So, great. So one of the things of the Liberty character is your journey with Nori, of course. Well, how has it been for you dramatically now that she's on a different journey, you're going to go on a different path?
I mean, that's always devastating. I think the end of that first season, I remember filming that day, the goodbyes, and it was just so emotional for everyone involved. And so, yeah, I think especially for Poppy, like, Nori is her home and is sort of part of her being, especially now considering Poppy's past. So it's hard, but, there's strength with it and resilience with the Harfoots that I think Poppy has also learned how to grapple with. And she knows that that's the right thing for Nori too.
What was about your character when you first read the script, going back to the original, that really made you want to play him?
Well, I didn't read the script. I had one scene, which you'll see that scene in episode 1, and it's with me and Halbrand. And so I didn't know what character I was playing for a little while. I think I got the role in about May of that year. What year was that? 23. And then we started shooting in October. So obviously I found out who I was before that. But I only saw Adar in the first season when everybody else did when the season came out. So I was kind of making leaps and joining dots right up until we started shooting. Yeah.
And I know we can't talk about season 2. What was your favorite part of your character's journey by the end of season 1?
Well, I love where it goes, because you have that amazing scene in episode 6 where in a barn with Galadriel, with Adar captured, and she, it seems, is the one being not just unreasonable, but kind of saying that she wants to wipe out, that the elves want to wipe out the Uruk completely, which is, supremacy of some kind, and it's not good. So he starts to cloud who's good and who's bad, you know.
It must be interesting to play. You're not truly a villain.
No.
And it's certainly not in your mind, but actually it's a little gray. You're not, things are not black and white like it was in the original films.
Yeah, I think of Adar as not a villain at all. He's just trying to prevent the deaths of his people, you know, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, right?
What was it about your character that made you want to play?
Oh gosh, well that's an easy one. So this is one of the first times in any kind of Lord of the Rings adaptation we're seeing an orc with an arc. You know, we're seeing an orc with a journey, with a bit more complexity, with a bit of a backstory. Often the orcs are wonderfully brilliant, of course, and every time we've seen them on screen, but they're often kind of a cannon fodder. You know, they come in, they do the killing, and then they get killed. This time we're going to explore something which is very new for these works, which is seeing an orc's kind of home life, as it were. How orcs actually have families and kind of family structures, and what effect that then has on the fact that they're going to war yet again, that they are kind of a displaced, homeless people. What Adar is asking of them as they go out to battle Sauron yet again. So Glug is wonderful. He is a warrior. He's really fearless. He's really respected by the other orcs, but he's also got some responsibilities outside of this world. And let's see how that will affect his relationship with Adar.
How's that? This show, everybody is not good or evil. Galadriel, it seems like everybody is gray. Is that one of the appealing things for not only your character? All the characters are not so black and white.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Tolkien's work and about the show that we're doing here. You know, season 1 was where the worlds were established. Season 2 is now where the characters are free to kind of roam in that playground. You know, and we're starting to see so many more layers and depths to all the characters. And yeah, what I think Tolkien showed so beautifully was that nothing is completely black and white. Mm-hmm. Things are grey. To bring it back to the orcs, you know, they are evil. They are the baddies. Let's face it, they're not the good guys. However, he wrote these essays and he wrote letters about whether the orcs were kind of irredeemably evil, or whether by being sentient creatures under, created by God in his world, there is some nature to them where they have, sentience as well. So it's great to explore that with these characters and with all the other things we see.
Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Do you like the whole Hall H? Was that crazy for you?
It was fantastic.
It's like,
I've just seen the first clip of me bursting out as an orc on the car on the way here. I've also never done so quick a turnaround between prosthetics and real life. So yeah, it's nice to be able to talk to you with my own face.
so you kind of got into it in the season finale. Your character kicked into Gil in season 1 finale.
Yeah,
how is your feeling of now that your character is going on kind of a, let's say, a darker, sadder path?
Yes.
How is it feeling your arc going into season 2?
Well, when I took on the job, I was told about the character that he dips his toe in season 1, but then season 2, it starts to really kick off, and that's proved to be absolutely correct. So I've been really looking forward to it because I know that this story is very dear to many people, the story of Sauron and Celebrimbor, and it's one that hasn't been told before on screen, or ever, I don't believe. And so Charlie and I were both very proud and excited to embark on it.
Now, how much did you know when you first signed on? How far ahead did they tell you what you were going to be doing?
Once I found out what the role was, because it took a while to actually get that information. You get the job, but then you got to wait a bit before you get to what role you're playing. And when I looked him up, I saw that he was integral to the Legendarium, and he was a very key character. And his story, although sketchy, was laid out by Tolkien, so I knew what was coming.
Okay, so we're going to talk season 1 a little, because obviously you can talk about that.
Sure.
What was it about your character, Cruz, who is gray? We're not talking black and white.
No.
That really appealed to you and made you want to play him?
Probably his story arc. I mean, if you know the Legendarium, you know where it ends, but kind of to run the trajectory of his time in the Second Age is really exciting for me. You know, the discovering what the rings can do, trying to kind of herd the cats of Middle-earth. I'm excited by that.
And what are you most excited about? I know you can't say much about your arc for next season.
Well, in the first season, you get to see his kind of political acumen. In his second season, you get to see the other side of him, which is you try and maintain peace for as long as you can, and then when you can't, what do you do? I think there's part of Gil-galad that's like, Oh, great. So, gloves off, here we go.
And we're talking about a lot of characters are gray in the show. It seems like no one's black and white. Is that something that appeals to you? Like all the characters have this kind of nuance in the show?
I think that's a testament to Tolkien, that there's something about humanity that at a moment's notice you could go either way. And I think that that's important to maintain, and that keeps it from being a cartoon.
Yeah.
You know, these are complex characters that span thousands of years. It seems like they'd naturally live in the gray.
Your character, I think all the characters are very emotionally gray. Things are not so black and white. What was it about your character that made you want to play him?
That. I mean, I love questions. I love curiosity. I love conflict. I love nuance. I mean, the reality of it all is that we all have all those colors in ourselves. They're just dialed up and down. Everybody has a struggle, you know, at some point or at many points. So I love playing characters that are nuanced in that way.
Was there any particular scene you really loved playing in season 1?
Yeah, I mean, the whole trench sequence, I love that. And the apology to the tree, you know, that was also one of my favorites.
How was the training for it? Because you got to do a lot of training. You're really
months upon months. I mean, a little bit obsessive, you know. I love to do it and do it right, and for it to really land and be remembered. So, and for me, I just feel okay letting go of a role if I feel I've done my best effort.
All right, so what's really refreshing, I like your character season 1. We don't really see younger characters in the Tolkien world, especially human characters. What was it about your character that really made you want to play him in season 1?
He is almost the complete opposite to me. He is like a real angsty, pissy. He loves confrontation. He loves, getting in people's faces and just doing what he wants. I'm the complete opposite. I'm anxious. I don't, I won't put myself in a situation where I'll be uncomfortable. And he's the complete opposite. So it's almost like I get to feel like a complete different person. Do you know what I mean? And that's a really fun thing to do as an actor. It's like kind of what we do, right? So, yeah.
Now, it seems like you might have a father figure. Maybe. So what are you most excited about emotionally for your character for season 2?
I think emotionally for Theo, it's a roller coaster, season 2, End of season 1, he's lost everything. His home is gone, his life is completely changed, and he's also just growing up, and he's learning that, I'm going to have to be a man now. I'm going to have to, grow up. I'm going to have to deal with the fact that these things have happened, and obviously there's the pain and there's the grief and there's a real sadness in him, but I think ultimately it fuels him, and we get to see him do some cool stuff.
So in The Lord of the Rings, the dwarf characters, especially were not developed at all in the original movies. Yeah. How is it for you having kind of for season 1, because you already talked about it, for having such a complex character with such interesting depth?
Oh, I think it was fantastic. I think Tolkien is an inspiration for inviting us to create from the ground up. Some characters, as you say, are very established, the dwarves not so much. So although there was a seed planted for us to have the pleasure and the honour to work with such an incredible creative team, the showrunners, the producers, the crew, etc., to build her and to give her some weight and density and story and depth was life-changing, a really exciting time.
And obviously season 2, you're going to have a different arc. Your arc's going to change. What are you most excited emotionally about for your character's journey?
I'm most excited about, she's seen as such a wonderful, joyous character, which she is, warm and strong and powerful. But darkness falls, and I think darkness can shake the ground of even the best of us. And so it was lovely to kind of watch her play with that inner good that we know her to have, but to have to kind of dance and stretch that out and struggle with the evil that's cast over her.
So I love you, season 1 arc. I love your character from this. You're strong, you're a leader, and at the end of the season, you're taking a tragic path. How did you feel about the season 1 arc for you and where your character ended?
Well, I knew that they were leaving her in a really tough spot, poor Míriel, right? And so the beginning of season 2, we're picking right up from that. So it's the loss of her people in a losing battle, the loss of her vision, and the loss of her father. So starting from a place of loss, and in the beginning of season 2, obviously, with any passing of a king, you have a funeral and you have a transfer of power. You have a changing of the guard. So season 2 is really going to be seeing how does Míriel navigate this potential new position of power that she, should be in. She is the next in line, but if people have their way, they might have something to say about that.
As an actress, how does it feel having a season 1 arc completely different from season 2? That you get a character evolution, characters gray. There's really not a lot of black and white in this series. How does that feel for you as an actress?
It feels like a sort of a natural progression, because just like in life where you can't sort of necessarily predict or control where you're going to go, you kind of have to be open to what the showrunners and the writers have planned for you. We don't necessarily get to have say in that, what Tolkien has laid out, because obviously that is the sort of the map that we don't necessarily stray from or can't stray from. And so, just like in life, you kind of have to, in real time, like explore and figure out, well, how does she feel about this, and what would she do, or what would she say within the guidelines of the script, within the guidelines of the story. But it keeps you on your toes. That's definitely for sure.
What was it about your character that made you want to play him?
Well, he's a very. I know he's a human, he's a man, but there's a very human element to Pharaon. I think there's so much that happens to him that it'd be so very easy to sort of let go, and give in to your impulses. But he's a man that breathes, is thoughtful, very resourceful, and very innovative, very progressive, I think. And so there was, that sort of resonated with me.
When you finally were allowed to read the script, what was it about your complex character that made you want to play him?
Well, I knew something of him from the Legendarium, but it's also there in the script. Is this stoic man who tries to do the right thing. He's a hero archetype, and we know he's a hero archetype from his self-sacrifice at the end with the last alliance of elves and men. And the great joy was, how do we create a fully rounded, three-dimensional human being with moral complexity, who is perhaps making the wrong choices, who is he's on the hero's journey, which is a classic case of not wanting to be the hero, not wanting to be the leader. But we're going to get this chance to see him formed throughout these seasons, and in this case, in season 2, in fact, the Queen is blind, so she can't see. So he has to interpret for her, and she explains the dynamics of the court. So we see this leader being taught by her how to be a king.
How fun is doing the fighting scenes?
I like 100% fun, especially on horseback. That's my favorite. Just give me a horse, give me a sword, I'm away.
So when you finally got to read the script, what was it about your character that season one? Yeah, so we'll go season 1. You're a very emotionally complex character, which I always found interesting. What was it about the character that made you really want to play her?
Yeah, I think the family dynamics, the first pitch I got was the first audition I had in the character description was about the complicated dynamics within a family and how politics can rip a family apart, and misunderstandings can rip a family apart. We got to sink deeper into that this season, which I'm really excited for people to see. But yeah, that's been the most exciting part of playing her.
It seems like in season 1 you had to hold back a lot. Does it feel like in season 2 you get to let out more emotion and feeling?
She's got a bit more agency this season. Yeah, she's kind of taking matters into her own hands instead of letting things happen, for better or for worse. Yes.
Eldarie, rivetula heldare ulasea. Ben Walker!